general.
Hello and welcome everybody to the School of Heaven and Earth podcast. I am your host, Merlin.
And I'm Crystal.
So right now there's a Gemini stellium. We've got Moon, Jupiter, Sun, and Mercury all in the sign of Gemini. This is great because Mercury here is the ruler of Gemini, so it's a good stewardship of this period. And the Moon-Jupiter conjunction is great for teaching, education, conversations, discussions. Really, anytime you've got a Moon-Jupiter configuration, generally points towards good fortune and success.
Yeah, great. And so today, in the spirit of the playfulness and warmth of of Gemini season, we are working with cacao or Theobroma, which literally translates to food of the gods. And what's delightful is that there's all kinds of new research about cacao that really expands our awareness of how cacao works as a medicine. And so if you look online, you'll see in 2003, all of these studies have been done. The cacao actually um, works on our stem cells, right? So cacao is being researched now for its anti-tumor properties. It decreases cellular aging and can have all kinds of beautiful effects on the whole body. But some of the medicine that we were already aware of, right, is that cacao is phenomenal for your heart, phenomenal for your brain, for your memory, for your mood. And cacao gives us kind of like, if you're working with good quality cacao, it gives us really ecstatic, expansive feeling, right? That helps you to approach your day with more wonder, more openness to possibilities, more awareness, more ability to take in sensation and register it as something that is pleasurable and manageable, something that you want to play with, right? And that's kind of the association with Gemini that we're building, and helps you to lean into your world and get excited about the possibilities, despite stress and pressure, right? And so these new studies that are coming out are like helping us to see how cacao allows us to work with pressures and stresses in more innovative ways.
Mm. Also, in the spirit of play, we have drinking this out of matching cups that
Yes,
we use a lot.
we
Yes,
are
D and M.
nerds.
Yes, very much so. I like these cups because they have very lovely flowers on them. Um,
I make us use
there's good
everything
cups too.
to
They're
be
well
cute.
made. Yeah, well, I like matching. This is the Libra rising over here.
Yeah.
Likes the partnership and so on. So we're going to be talking about this is part three of our prophecies and medicines for cataclysmic times. And the roadmap for this is to discuss some of the big transitions that are going on astrologically, now and next month. And also from there, talking more about what we can do to prepare and how we can best navigate these shifts, specifically with the building of community. And the last session, we talked about building invisible community with our allies, our guides, like the spirits of the land. Now we're going to talk more about material in-person community, new economies, getting out of the system, getting out of the late stage capitalist system.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when it comes to building human to human community, right? Like obviously this is more important now. It's becoming more and more vital for us every day, just in terms of the long-term survival of humanity, right? Like we know our supply chain systems are failing. We know that the current economic structure, the one that we've had, for quite a long time, is based on the system that it's based on of infinite growth, goes against the first law of physics, right? Matter can neither be created nor destroyed. We don't live on a planet with that is capable of infinite growth. So we have to, if we're going to survive, we have to escape this economy. We have to find new ways to um, distribute goods, right? And they're not actually new ways, they're old ways, right? And so there's, if you're watching this, you're probably somebody who has heard of the gift economy in our 2 podcast episodes ago, we had Annie Finch on talking about the maternal gift economy, and hopefully you got to, look on that link and you can get in that listserv. The gift economy is something that is an aspect of the school of heaven and earth that Matthew and I are trying to build, right? And so it operates on this idea that, you're always going to have abundance in one area of your life, and that you can build relationship and social security by sharing of that abundance, and somebody else will be likely to want to share their abundance with you, right? And this brings both of you more of what you need, right? Like more of a diversity of goods and resources, and it also makes you feel really good about each other, right? It builds these really strong social bonds. So this is a way to kind of like rebuild that original tribal memory that we have, that my good is your good. If you have everything that you need and you're safe, then I have everything that I need and I'm safe. And I sort of begin to not see myself as just myself, but I see myself as my community and my network, right? So, you've probably heard people talk about that the original, that in a lot of tribal communities, the greeting when you saw somebody else might translate to something like, you are another me, or you are also people, right? I am people and you are people. We are people together, right? And that has been a necessary state of mind, right, for people, for humans, for 2.5 million years of evolution, right? And it's been less than 10,000 years that we've stopped looking at members of our that we've stopped looking at our neighbors as other humans, as being a source of safety, right? And assurance, rather than what we see them as now, what capitalism breeds, which is as a competition, right? As somebody who's going to get resources over me, right? So what capitalism does is it inherently creates enemies, right? Because we think competition breeds innovation, right? Or in capitalism, they think competition breeds innovation, breeds more goods, breeds abundance. And of course, that's a lie. That's sociologically a lie. That's anthropologically a lie.
It's biologically a lie.
It's
It's
biologically a lie. Yeah.
success in the species happens through mutual aid.
Right.
That's more or less a scientific fact. So we'll talk more about gift economy, what that looks like, and how it's the biggest middle finger that you can give to late stage capitalism. I do want to talk a little bit about the astrology
Mhm.
before we get into more of the practicals. So first off, this is a great time to start preparing, entering into things like gift economy, doing more trade with neighbors, starting to grow
Mhm.
your own food, because, there is a transit coming up, which is pretty good, that, for the next year, 13 months or so is a great opportunity to start building some of these better structures before the more intense stuff starts coming down the line in like 2026, 2027. So, and that's so good and bad. The difficult thing is Saturn and Aries, which just happened about on last Saturday, and the pro is Jupiter and Cancer. So
Mhm.
I'll start with the difficulties first, and we'll get a frame for what that looks like. And that Saturn and Aries. This happens, every 28, 29 years or so. Saturn moves into the sign of Aries. Saturn is the god of death, and Aries is the sign of war. So you can get a sense for what that looks like just knowing that. And back in the last time was like 96, 97 that Saturn was in the sign of Aries. And there was a lot of skirmishes going on in the Balkans during that period, and also some of the more intense activity of the Irish Troubles. But then before that was the late 60s, which was the height of the Vietnam War. And then before that was there was a Saturn Jupiter conjunction in Aries, and they were getting closer and closer together. And that coincided with the beginning of World War II and the invasion of Poland. So those are pretty pivotal epochs in terms of global conflict. And so in the next several years, I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of thing starts to come down the line. Not to scare anybody, but just to sort of prepare that just extrapolating from the past towards the future, that's the kind of thing that you tend to see during this period.
And we discussed this in our first
Yeah.
our first episodes of Prophecies and Medicines, like
Yes.
this was already
We've
indicated in
yeah,
the
in the first session we did back in like February. Yeah.
right with the Mars Jupiter Saturn conjunction. So this is just
Yes.
yet another indicator
Of that.
that increased war is coming down the line, which
Yeah.
is of course a pattern that we've been seeing with the rise of the military industrial establishment
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Good.
and the militarization of the police here and abroad, the rise of cop cities and militarized police. And now we have the new Gestapo, ICE,
Yeah.
right?
And I don't care what side of the aisle you land on in whatever country you are, the militarization of the police should terrify you.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing. Doesn't matter who you voted for. Like that's yeah.
Or what color you are.
Yeah, doesn't matter. If you're more on the Republican side, that's just big. That's just the government getting bigger and more powerful. You should be terrified of that.
Why do
If
you want that?
yeah,
Why is that a
if
good thing?
you're on the left, that's a violation of civil rights. So everyone should be horrified by that and push back against that in any way that they can. Um, but so that's the con. The pro is that Jupiter is about to move into the sign of Cancer, which is Jupiter's exaltation. And this is great for economic growth and economic development. We've got a great period here where Jupiter is in Cancer. We have a lot to look forward to. There is the Jupiter Saturn square that will perfect on June 15th, but that's at the very beginning of Jupiter's stint in Cancer. And then after that's over, I think we'll see a lot of lightening up. So I think there's going to be some intensity in June around this, but it will start to it'll start to get easier for a little bit for a time, and we'll have more to look forward to. The last time that Jupiter was in Cancer, there was a lot of economic growth throughout the kind of the I don't know as much about the economic history of like China and the East, but at least in the West, there was a lot of economic growth. If you look at the United States' natal chart, the US is Sag rising, so it's ruled by Jupiter, and it has Jupiter in Cancer conjoined the Sun. So this Jupiter in Cancer is the United States Jupiter return and Jupiter going over the Sun, and then also Jupiter going over the US's ascendant ruler. And then for Great Britain and the UK, the development of the United Kingdom was established in 1801. That's the natal chart for the UK that most people use, and that has Jupiter in Moon in Cancer in the 10th house. So that's also so another very very positive thing that's happening if you live in the United Kingdom or in one of the what do they call that? Like a former colony or something like Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It's like a word for that. I forget. We're not. Yeah, if you know what that is, you know what I'm talking about. That'll ripple out to your economy as well. 2014, the last time that this
If you were
happened,
colonized
if you
by
were calling,
Britain.
yeah, or they have a word for it. I can't remember what it is. The if you were so in the US at least, there was a huge step in recovery from the 2008 housing crash that happened then. Interest rates came down. There was a huge development in growth to the GDP. Unemployment saw its lowest rate since 2008. It got to like below 6%. And there are a couple other things that happened that sort of pointed towards a lot of economic growth. A lot of jobs were developed, especially in late 2014 too. So I do expect more economic growth, more fiscal opportunities to start arising throughout the time that Jupiter is in Cancer. And so as a result, this is, I think, a great time to start, capitalizing on this in the most neutral sense and taking advantage of it, really. This is a great year to start planning, preparing, building those structures in your life to prepare for
The
some of
shit
the
show coming
for
down
the
the
shit
line.
show that might be coming down the line in 2026, 2027. Jupiter is the greater benefic, who is classically associated with community and people who lift you up, people who support you, mutual aid, the greater allies, the greater tribe. So this is Jupiter in Cancer,
Generosity.
generosity, abundance. This is a great time to build abundance with allies and be generous. So it brings us back to one of the best ways to do this and to build community is a return to something like a gift economy. Um, I'll say historically that, and I'll pass this back to you. That
Mhm.
a lot of us were taught that like, oh, in indigenous communities, people used to just barter and trade, and that's how we did things all the time. that's not how it actually happened. Like trade and bartering, like this for that, tit for tat, that kind of thing, was not really how it worked. It was a gift economy.
Hmm.
This was like your neighbor, your friend needed something, and so then you gave it to them. But with that, there was a sense of like I owe you, or I'll get you back, and not in like a controlling sort of way. It was just this like okay, you helped me, so I'm going to want to help you.
So it could be a power
It
play.
could be a power
Well,
play.
you think of it as like a play, almost like a playful thing. But what it was like
Anka's Big Maka.
Anka's Big
Anka's Big
Maka,
Maka.
which is
Yeah.
a really
A
funny
really funny, quirky, yeah,
documentary.
from the
But he,
90s.
is like, I'm gonna give everybody, I'm gonna give everybody so much stuff, and I'm really gonna have them then.
Yeah, so Anka is this chief of a New Guinea tribe, and at the end, he says like, I've given you all so much stuff.
You're never gonna.
I've ruined you. You will never be able to give to me as much as I have given you. I'm in charge. I win. And that's the great, I think the best kind of power play,
That's the
really,
best.
is, you get
I'm
power.
such a good chief. I'm such a good leader
Yes.
that
Yeah.
you all because you all are so abundant,
Yeah.
right? Like I've made you so abundant, you're never going to find a better leader than me.
Yeah.
That nobody's ever going to be able to give you as much as I've given you. Which imagine if our leaders thought like that, right?
Yeah.
What an amazing world it would be. I've given the people so much rather than I've figured out really new and innovative
To
ways
take so
to
much.
extract your labor and your natural birthright resources on this planet and siphon it off and keep you all fighting for scraps,
Yeah. So
which
that's how it is
is
now.
which is what we have now.
Yeah, yeah. How much can I? How many resources can I take from you so that I can get a bigger, better yacht? That's what we have going
And
on
how
now.
can I distract you with a show as I
Mhm.
do it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's unfortunate.
a
Look,
real
look.
joke
The fact of the matter is that anybody in power, any kind of authority, again, either side of the aisle, they don't care about you. They're not your friend,
right now.
right?
Yeah.
They don't want you to succeed, and the best way to lead to combat that is just to leave, to get out of the situation, to get out
Walk
of the,
away.
yeah, walk away. And this is historically how a lot of civilizations
Yep.
fell, was just by people saying like, I'm done. I'm not
Could
playing this game anymore.
Yeah, which is what happened to the Olmec, right? It's what happened to the was it the Anasazi,
Mhm.
the mound builder
The
civilization,
Mississippian culture.
the Mississippian culture, and that's probably before the Spanish conquistadors came, the Maya, the Inca, and the Aztec, they were all in various stages. Well, the Inca were a little younger, but the Maya and the Aztec were already in a state of disintegration,
Mhm.
right? Because like civilizations, the power can only get so isolated. So it can only get so concentrated at the top before people finally wake up and realize that their priest kings have been fleecing them,
Mhm.
right? And unfortunately, since we have such a good propaganda machine and we've utilized, our mercurial resources in such a way that, they've really been able to keep this whole thing going, that and fear, right? The development of, military technologies have, enabled a concentration of wealth and a blinding and honestly, let's just be honest, a dumbing down of the masses that it's taking a while to crumble, but it is crumbling, and unfortunately it's taking most of our ecosystems with it.
Unfortunately.
Which is why, let's get into the practical aspects here, which is why it's really important that we honestly return, like, this is one of the reasons that, Matthew and I have devoted so much time to primitive skills or ancestral skills, ancestral knowledge, is we're going to have to learn how to make and develop what we need locally again. this is one of the, truth lies, right, that Trump talks about with, bringing manufacturing back to the United States. And of course, factory scale manufacturing in the United States in the current economy is not possible, is not reasonable, it's not desirable because nobody wants to be because nobody wants to be paid the kind of wages and do the kind of work in factories that in late stage capitalism with, extraordinarily greedy corporations and the complete fraud of stocks and public trading, um, there's not enough resources left over after feeding the parasite class to pay to make that work worthwhile, right? So what we really need is for us small local communities and villages to begin to make and produce our own food, make and produce our own clothing, learn how to build with resources that we have locally, build homes, build homesteads. And I'm not saying that this isn't like the trad wife isolated,
Right.
a
Yeah. That's not what I'm
homestead
talking about.
life that gets put on Instagram as, whatever kinds of rage bait to keep people fighting with each other. We need interlinked, interconnected communities,
Yeah.
right? Where one person's skill and one person's abundance is readily shared with others, which is why we just yesterday we were meeting with, the fabulous Ben. I forget Ben's last name
Ben
from the Reed Singer.
Friedton from the Reed Center in Maryland. Yeah.
Right. So we're designing out our own food forest so that we're going to have a lot of abundance of nuts and fruits and berries and, other things to share, herbs to share with our community. But maybe we don't want to, right? Like we think it's going to be too much work for us since we also work full time to have livestock. So we're going to be offering up we're going to need to, find a local farmer who will lend us some sheep or goats,
Hmm.
that they can graze on our land. So helping out that rancher, with our land. And those are the kinds of trades that we're going to have to start, making with one
That's mutually
another.
supportive.
Yeah.
And of course, as I say, as an aside, our big hope is now that we're starting to get onto our property is to have people in our sphere come and stay with us for a time, study for it with us at a very, very low cost to start building more in-person community too. Just
Right.
throwing that out there. And but for people who don't
Have land.
have land, don't live in an apartment, who live in an apartment, first you can grow so you can grow some food just in an apartment. It's not super complex, and there's lots of free resources that you can find online for that kind of thing. But oftentimes as well, there are community gardens around you that you can plant in, that you can grow in, and you'll even find other people there that you can connect with and start building in-person community with as well. Um, there are options available for everybody wherever you are. That's always on the table.
Right. And in some ways, if you're in an urban environment, this is even
Easier.
easier and you can make more substantial change to the structure of our society because a lot of us live in urban centers, right? By organizing your apartment building, organizing your local community. Like if you can get everybody in your apartment complex on the same page, you can do things like a rent strike,
Mhm.
right? And that's necessary. You can do things like, join your local, develop a buy nothing site, right? Like exchange goods in your apartment building, build, what do they call that? Um, my friend Emily Brown, who's in the School of Heaven and Earth, she talks about this a lot, that one of the most important things to your emotional well-being, especially with, upcoming supply chain issues and, uh, electrical grid issues, something that, like in Pittsburgh, there were people who were without electricity for over a week, right? So you develop these kind of low energy input relationships with everybody in your neighborhood, just like knocking on the door, hey, hi, how's your kids? Everything okay? Do you need anything? And then the way that you like really forge those bonds is ask your neighbor for something you need. So even though you might think, you know, giving something is a way to build stronger ties, actually asking and receiving
Is also very
it
beneficial.
is better,
Yeah, right. That's
is
yes, better.
actually vastly more effective. So you go and you say, hey, I need some sugar. Do you have any? Hey, I need some eggs. Do you have any? Or can I can I use, I don't know, something else, my water's out. Can I use your shower? Like if you know if that's true, like that happens sometimes, right? You know, even what I'm saying is like get creative. You know, like think about the things that you might need your neighbors for in the future, and then go ahead and ask. Like start that process. And so that with that neighbor, that forms a strong bond for them because it feels good. Remember, it feels really good to give,
Mhm.
like chemically. So this is like on a hormonal level. You're going to build more trust and a stronger bond by asking for something, and that's going to open up space. And it's going to make that neighbor really comfortable asking you for something,
Mhm.
right? And then you're also going to want to protect each other, right? So with the rise, like I mean, these you know these ice raids have been terrifying, right? Um, if somebody comes for you, which could happen down the line with the rise of fascism, like I mean, they're if they're coming for immigrants, if they're coming for you know people on student visas and green cards, it's like don't think for one moment that you're not on the chopping block because you will be because you don't have billions, right? So you are going to need one another for protection. You're going to want neighbors who are going to put their necks out for you. And you want to be the person that they know um, is is going to be there for them. You need to become worth it for one another to protect. And these bonds of community are what's doing that. So really simple, ask for a cup of sugar,
Mhm.
right? Like, or ask for some honey, you know, ask for some cornstarch, you know, see if ask a neighbor to drive your kid to school. Say, you know, I'm sick. I need somebody to take the kid to soccer practice. Any chance you could do that? And then say, hey, if you ever need a ride, let me know. Right? Like carpool. Hey, want to go do errands together? Gas is really expensive. How about we go to the grocery store together? These are, you know, these are vital.
Yep, yep. And then think about stuff that you want to make. Think it whether it's like clothes or bowls or you know whatever. This that to people who have a lot going on are very very busy. That might sound exhausting. But think of it as an opportunity to create something beautiful that you like, with whatever medium, whatever modality that is. And if you have the opportunity to do this kind of DIY stuff with other people, you can each do something, make something that you like to make, and you can share it with other people. You don't that way have to figure out how to make all of the things yourself. Um, and it really is an opportunity to create more beauty. Learn how to do things with
Mhm.
your hands that you like, that feel beautiful to you, and really empower yourself. So you find a couple of things that you don't need to buy anymore. It could be as simple as making lotions, which is not that hard to do.
Just saved us tons of money.
You saved us
We
tons of
make
money
beautiful
making.
tallow lotions
Hmm.
all the time, steeped with beautiful herbs, some that we've collected ourselves,
Hmm.
just spiritually potent as well.
And you harvest the herbs magically and ritual, and it becomes an alchemical practice too. And the
Hmm.
same thing for making your own medicines and even making your own food. If you can
Clothes.
making your own clothes, this is all
They
it's
all become
your
talismans.
opportunity to cut out the middleman from you between you and the earth. And think just as you're just like in purely practical terms, think how do I get started with this? Think of something that you find really beautiful, that you really appreciate in your life, that you would like to learn how to make yourself. And then just 5, 10 minutes a day, look up, research how to do that, practice, find somebody in your area who teaches that kind of thing, like sewing or crocheting, or again, making clothes, making medicines, making lotions, whatever. Find something that you like,
Making
uh,
furniture.
making furniture, hey, making making alcohol, making wine, even,
Mhm.
like anything that you enjoy that you would like to have more of for yourself and that you would like to share with other people as well. And do that instead of scrolling on social media. Something that's what you do. Something that's very fun. This is like old school dopamine hits, not the dopamine hit from scrolling through social media or like the fake late stage capitalist dopamine hit from hustling and grinding and whatever, but sort of making something beautiful, seeing something tangibly come to life in front of you.
Fuck with the acorns.
Yeah, so we harvest acorns, or we did when we were, or
This was our favorite
more land. So
dopamine hit.
we would say we would go for a walk and we'd see some acorns on the ground during acorn season, which is like late like August to October. And we'd say, okay, we'll just pick up a couple acorns because you need a lot of fucking acorns in order to make anything, make food with acorns. So we just say we'll pick up a couple, and then
And then you can't
half
stop.
an hour would go by and we would still be harvesting acorns because it's like, oh, there's another one,
It'd
there's
be like
another one, there's another one, there's
during the
another one.
hike, it's like we're trying to hike, but
You
that
can't,
acorn looks
yeah.
beautiful. And eventually it does. It's like eventually the most beautiful thing in the world is this,
Yes.
shiny, silky
And you
acorn.
see all
You pick it up.
the different like little colors and pigments, and it looks like you just one little acorn can look like the most beautiful piece of natural art in the world. And our mind is just trained to pass over these things through civilization,
Now.
society.
Yeah.
Now if it's not super flashy and gimmicky, we don't pay attention to it. But historically and for hundreds of thousands of years, that's the original proto dopamine hit that you would get, is from harvesting something. And
Just
again,
so spiritually powerful.
it's super spiritually powerful. Think of the relationship that you're making with that oak tree
Hmm.
and with the spirits that tend that oak tree by harvesting acorns. And then think of what happens to your body when you eat that instead of getting, fucking Wonder Bread from the store.
Even though it's a lot of work, it's like it's joyous work. It's spiritually empowering work.
Yeah.
It's making you an integral part of your ecosystem again.
And it's exercise, it's fresh air. You can do if you take a walk a couple times a week, maybe, or even just once a week, maybe some of the times that you would go for a walk, go into the woods and harvest medicines or harvest acorns, or something like that. Of course, do it mindfully, respectively. We can't get into all of that there. Just we'll take some. But yeah, it's just replace it with some of the time that you're already, or just replace it with social media. Replace it with social media.
Replace social media with that.
That one. Replace social media with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
That was
Yeah.
that was the mind
That was mine.
virus
Yeah. Trying to, in fact, and say
of the technocratic
you all
policing.
know what I mean. You all know what I mean. And you get more time that you can spend outside connecting with the raw materials to the things that you make and the things that you consume, the better off, the happier you will be. Truly.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the more you can do it in community, the more you can, like knock on a neighbor's door, phone up a friend you haven't talked to for a while and be like, hey, do you want to get outside and see what resources we can find freely available in our local ecosystem?
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, that's the stuff. Right. And everything that you do with your hands, so everything that you actually make with yourself, you make for yourself. Remember, just to like reiterate this, it becomes a talisman, right?
Mhm.
Like it becomes something that you can seed with prayer, seed with who you are, seed with your, you know, it becomes a part of you, right? Like these, unfortunately, I have a sewing machine. Eventually, when we move and I have some time, I'm gonna start trying to make our own clothes. But like these, there's a lot of negative energy you got to fight off, right? That really affects you, right? And the how this was produced. Like if this was produced, and very likely most of what you were is, produced in not great conditions where people aren't happy, right? And you're there's a way in which you bound yourself to that. Like you've tied yourself into that suffering. And yes, you can bless it, you can love it, you can send it good energy,
It's not a
but
fix.
the facts of the material world are still you are participating in the exploitation and the enslavement of other people and the theft of their resources
Mhm.
and honestly the theft of their labor. And the less you can be a part of that, the better off the health of your soul is.
Yeah.
Right. So when we're talking about this, we're talking about like reclaiming your power as humans. It's like we have a responsibility, we have a duty as people who are becoming more and more ensouled, right? Like more and more incarnated, as spiritual practitioners to make sure that we're being very aware of where our energy goes and how it affects everybody else, because we become more and more aware of the fact that we are everybody else, right? That who we are is this entire planet,
Mhm.
right? Like, is this entire solar system, is this entire universe,
Mhm.
right?
Yep. So I think we'll wrap it up there. In some, um, great opportunity this year to start building community and strengthening your connection to the earth. Do whatever you can to cut out the middleman between you and what you produce, what you consume. Find something beautiful that you like to make, and find other people to do it with. You don't have to do this alone.
Mhm.
Talk to your guides, talk to your deities, and tell them your intention that you would like to plug back into, local community and networks of people, and find them to support you. And yeah.
And then do it. Knock on a neighbor's door. Do it today,
Mhm.
right? Like, do whatever, talk to your guides, but recognize that this is the step in preparing. This is a step I am taking to prepare myself for knocking on my neighbor's doors and organizing with them to resist the rise of the technocratic fascist
Fascist
police
police
state.
state. Yes. Wonderful. All right, everybody. Great tuning in. And yes,
Oh, tell us how you're building
right.
community in the comments. What are you doing to resist? What are you doing to organize? What are you doing to reconnect with your humanity and your ancestral skills? And what kind of support do you need?
Mhm.
Let us know.
Yeah.
And join us in the Score of Heaven and Earth. Share, like, and comment. And we'll see you next time.
Cool. See you next time. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.